Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. We've talked about this before, that what you think becomes your reality. A lot of great things connected to that. Like, let's say you manifest something, let's say it's a car, and you believe that's coming your way, and then it shows up. Many examples of that. People have experienced it. So the thoughts become your reality. Now let's look at it in a different way. When you're thinking something, or you're dealing with stress, or let's say something happened and you haven't forgiven somebody and you're just holding it in, and time goes on, and then you start realizing you're getting sick. Maybe you got a disease. You may have created it just by holding these things inside. We're going to talk about that today. She is an amazing psychologist, has so much knowledge in so many areas, even outside of psychology. And she's back with us. Dr. Ann Creekmore is on the program. How you doing today?
Great. How are you, Steve?
Really good. Really good. I'm glad we're talking about this. And, you know,
Yes.
I was on the fence in terms of believing. Now, first of all, we've said this before, and people have heard this forever. Stress can kill. Stress is just bad for you. All right, we got that. We believe that. This other stuff that we might be internalizing, that it has the probability of causing dis-ease in our bodies. I really wondered about that until I heard that a lot of what we experience gets into the cellular level. It's in our cells. Almost everything we experience is that deep into our systems. And, cells are microscopic, but they're so complex and they got lots of going on there.
Right.
It goes that deep. So when I heard that, scientifically proven, then it makes sense that the stuff we deal with is getting deep into our body and can eventually cause us to get sick, right?
Correct. Yes. Mind body interaction. And what we say to ourselves, like you're saying, is going to create how we feel, and how we feel is going to affect our physical as well as our behaviors and outcomes in life.
Hmm. Have you experienced this? Can you correlate it to something that was going on that caused maybe an illness?
Well, yes. I think I mentioned to you that, as well as being a licensed clinical psychologist for many years, I've done a lot of, just spiritual practice as well, because I bring in the mindfulness and so on, and guided imagery for relaxation and so on. But one of the classes I was taking through one of the churches, it was a religious science one, which is science of mind. It's very much like cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just like what you're thinking is creating. And we had to do a particular exercise kind of in our class, and kind of do a demonstration. So we had to kind of pick some kind of area that we physically had a problem with, and then look at some of the sponsored thoughts. If you're familiar with Louise Hay House, she did a lot of on this, and especially on the body, like certain thoughts might lead to certain kinds of effects on your body. Like sure. The one for colds, catching colds, was like, stress, thinking, well, believing one, that you're going to catch cold, or it's the time of year I'm going to catch cold, or I've got all this stress on me and I'm rushing and I'm hurried, kind of affecting your immune system, talking to yourself, getting yourself, stressed out through your self-talk. So I picked that one because I had young children and I would get sick quite a lot anyway, picking up their stuff, as they're building their immunity. And so they have certain relaxation statements to say to yourself, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to catch that, and just have this negative belief system. Or oh, I'm all, stressed out, which gets your immune system down. I would say more of this. Louise Hay had it, and I forget what it was because this is like years and years ago, but it was something about, my mind is relaxed and I'm at peace and I'm at harmony and so on. So just to kind of say that and keep your immune system kind of at a relaxed, not overcharged level. So a client walks into my office and she's carrying her little bag from the pharmacy and she's just coughing her head off. And she's going, I just got back from the pharmacy. I got an upper respiratory infection and I got my antibiotic right here. So of course, my mind would have gone to, oops, uh-oh, so, but instead I said, you know what, I'm going to try this. This is the perfect time. I'm supposed to do some demonstration work on my own mind body, interactions, perfect thing. So every time she coughed, I would say the mantra, that my mind's at peace and relaxed, peace and harmony are surrounding me, in me, within me. And so I probably had to do it 300 times because she's coughing the whole time during the session, right? But I did never get sick. So she, so it worked. So I also had something that I could share when we went on working on ourselves. So that's my little story.
So
I realized, yeah.
You're convinced, and I don't doubt it for a second, that you evaded getting sick by believing I'm not going to get sick. That's not happening. I'm not going to get sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And also not getting myself all stressed, because some people will develop kind of more emotional, mental reactions to things. Some people tend to internalize things and the stress goes into their body and they develop kinds of things. And I'm kind of more that type of person that might, just kind of hold it and not, like you've heard of high blood pressure. Supposedly related to kind of long-standing, unresolved emotional issues, potentially, that didn't get released. Maybe you couldn't express for whatever reason, as a child, and it just built in you. And some toxic stuff that you just couldn't get out. And then when people start and they come to therapy sometimes and they're able to express more and get it out, and find the healthy ways to discharge it there. And ways also to set boundaries against the toxic stuff that might be affecting them and raising their blood pressure, the whole therapeutic process. Then their blood pressure goes down. They're no longer kind of invalidating themselves and and holding everything in and letting it build up. And it can, that can really help.
Mm.
So of course, and I believe that the fact that I didn't get all, I'm hurried, I'm stressed, I'm going to be sick, that negative thinking. Yes, I do think that since I stated that inner calm and peace and the positive, that let my body relax and my body didn't overreact to stress and and bring down immune system.
Is it the language that we tell ourselves? Like, for example, I've always had this concern. You book a vacation, you have a lot of money on the line. Taking time off from work. You just want to have fun. I don't want to get sick. I don't make sure I don't get sick. So instead of walking around saying, I hope I don't get sick. I hope I don't get sick. I hope I don't. I hope I don't.
Right.
Flipping that around, because it's my belief that using that language, your subconscious doesn't know the difference.
Correct.
So, I hope I don't get sick. It doesn't know good from bad, yes and no. It just hears words. I hope I don't get sick. That's right. What it hears. So
exactly,
flipping that language around to say, I am healthy. I'm going to remain healthy. Yes. I am the picture of health. I feel so great. Nothing can get into my body. Nothing can happen here. Do you think it's about the language too?
I do, absolutely. Because if you keep saying I'm going to get sick, how many times have you told yourself that, or I'm not going to get sick? You're still saying, I'm worried about getting sick. I'm going to, it's on your mind getting sick.
Right.
So yes, it's very important to claim your good in the positive, in the present, just to put that out, because that is, what you are creating. Your emotions will respond to that, and your behaviors will respond to that. And so you kind of will maybe do the correct things too. If you're just trying to avoid something, it's not saying I'm the epitome of health, or I'm feeling very healthy, and that might make you go in and drink some water and eat something healthy, or take like a little herbal tea that would be good for you, because your mind is on the health. It's going to affect your behaviors as well as, your feelings, because your feelings are going to kind of direct your behaviors. And then here you are doing all these healthy things. I'm healthy, I'm going to go for a walk, that kind of leads in. And so the whole mind-body interaction behavior is working together when you just claim you're good in the present, as positive.
So let's take this some layers deeper. What if you've got unresolved things in your life? Let's say you've got somebody that did you wrong. You haven't forgiven them. And we talked about forgiveness and how important it is to move your life forward. So let's expound upon that. So you're just harboring these negative feelings, and hypothetically here, I hate them.
Right.
I hate what they did. I wish them all the worst. They're a nasty individual. I just, karma, pull up, man. I will never forgive them for what they did.
Yeah.
You're holding it inside, and
Exactly.
that rage, can that make you sick?
I mean, it's already, in my opinion, made a person sick when they do that, because anger is kind of like taking a poison pill, expecting somebody else to die. Because are they hearing it? They're not there. They're not getting any negativity from it. They're totally fine. All you're doing is making yourself feel bad. You're
Right.
angry, you're, and anguish, and you're not, you're losing your free time and joy time.
Yeah.
And you've already kind of put yourself in a negative state.
Without a doubt. They already won. You allowed them to win.
You gave them the power.
You gave them your power. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that, based on what we're talking about, I mean, it's almost the same thing, but it is different than stress. We all know, scientifically proven, that stress can make you sick. Stress can cause disease. Stress can cause heart attacks. Stress can
Absolutely.
cause ulcers. Or
Right.
that happened to me. This is an emotional response. When you haven't forgiven somebody, you don't condone what they did. You haven't forgiven them. And now you're holding that inside. I got to believe it's going to manifest into something. It's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere. And
Absolutely.
And where's it going to go? Into your cells and create some kind of illness.
Exactly. There's plenty of research around that to show that it does, because it's in your body and you're putting it in there. And you don't want to put that in there. You want to create the good in your life and in your feelings at all times. Find your way to peace and love. And then that's what you're going to manifest and experience.
What else can you tell us about the connection between the mind and illness? Any other thoughts?
Well, I mean, I understand. I think Bernie Siegel did a lot, doctor on cancer as well, or just any kind of medical problems. I think that that holding in maybe, the anger of loss from grief. A lot of times, supposedly, there's some research suggesting that if you've experienced some loss and you just haven't worked through the mourning process, maybe you stayed stuck at anger, and not really let it, that can manifest as cancer, like a year and a half down the road, that is still eating you inside, kind of thing. And but there's a lot of correlates, that come up, but that's the one that comes to my mind from his books he's written. I think it was, what was the name of that one? I don't know if you remember. It was Love, Laughter, and Medicine or something. Bernie Siegel was, big on the connection between what you say to yourself and the feelings you create, and then your health and well-being.
You said something before, Anne, about letting it go and purging. And I want to talk about crying.
Yes.
We don't realize the amazing benefits of it, and that what the whole process of what it's doing, right down to the chemical release in your tears.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about that?
Sure. I mean, some research has shown that there are 90 toxins in sad tears compared to only about 10 in happy tears. So when you are crying, you're actually not just releasing your emotions, but you're actually releasing toxins, chemicals, and physically. So it's a very important thing to do, and especially in grief. Some people will hold the grief in. They kind of stay at the earlier phases of grief of being kind of in shock or bargaining, thinking about, well, this had happened or that didn't happen. Like somehow you can make it go away. The loss is there. It's not going to be thought away. And then the next phase being anger, or anger turned inward, getting angry with yourself and guilt. And then, if you stay stuck at those early phases of going back and forth rather than fully going through the mourning process of doing the crying, the grieving, and, that's what's necessary to let it, go to the point that you actually get some resolution to the grief process where you get to acceptance, where, you let it out enough. And then all of a sudden you start to feel some acceptance. Yes, this is it, the way it is. And then some fun memories are starting to come back about the person or the loss or things that you learned. And then you're really getting back to your homeostasis. You're getting ready to start to rebuild and create a joyful life.
Do you feel that many of us not seeing the value of crying, that we hold it inside and we don't, it's a weakness. We look at it as a weakness that, I'm crumbling, or that situation took me down. And then we say, I'm not going to let it bother me, but we really should just purge it out, let it go.
Right, absolutely. And I ask my clients to think about these phases and catch themselves when they're in it, because grief isn't just a straight line. I mean, you're trying to get to the light in the tunnel and feel some acceptance, some peace again, but you might go have some tears, but then you go back and you're stuck in anger and that's eating you up. Or you go back and just thinking about it. And you should catch yourself and say, that's okay for me to do that. Those are my feelings, but I want to move forward. So if I'm feeling angry, then I want to say that's part of my grief. It's a third phase. It's okay. But I'm going to cry now. Like try to say, I must be sad. So I still must have some bottled up grief to get out and sadness and get through the morning. So kind of encourage yourself and nudge yourself to keep going forward. Because if you don't, you stay back, you're not going to get to that inner peace, to that sense of acceptance without going through the mourning process.
Is there a mantra or technique that we can use where you don't want to repeat the habit? So let's go back to somebody that you should forgive, or maybe you've attempted to and you've only gotten maybe 75% of forgiving them. You just can't let it fully go. And then when you get to those triggers, let's say they're out of your mind, it's having a good day, and then you get a text, and now you're angry again, or you're plainly triggered, and this is the stuff that we identify that can make you ill.
Right.
What can you do in those situations to deflect it or push it away, make it go away, so you're not letting it affect you?
Well, in my book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life, in the chapter 6, Speak Your Truth, there's a whole section at the end of speaking your truth and speaking your needs and feelings in a healthy way about ways to chill when somebody has triggered you, quite possibly, or just aggravated you and you're feeling some hurt or rejection underneath, or anxiety. And so there are multiple ways to do it, and you can get right in my book as well. But things like giving yourself a timeout, maybe just taking a break and just don't think about it. Go do something nice, fun, distract yourself, get yourself back to the present. So that you're not, because apparently our IQs go down like 2 standard deviations when we get really angry. So we're not even thinking straight with our full faculties.
Right.
So it's better to go calm somewhere, go breathe, maybe do some positive self-talk. I can relax, or do something that's, ground yourself in something nice, go see the sunset or whatever time it is that you can do, whatever, take a walk, and then bring yourself back to a calm place. And then try to stay at a, follow your breath, is always good. Like if you're trying to think about something that is uncomfortable, maybe ask yourself, when I felt this way before, when I felt sad like this, or when I felt anxious like this, and see if it's maybe you're being triggered. Like you mentioned, triggered something from your past was similar. It's all bottled up in that. And you want to release that as well. It's not really the problem, isn't it? It's the solution is not to just keep focusing on the anger. It's to kind of go back and maybe also grieve some past trigger that you have.
Absolutely.
And then also to stay with your breath, just kind of imagine a triangle and kind of breathe up, the inhaling on the left and then down the right side, exhale. And at the bottom, just when you're there, just stay there, rest, relax, say rest, relax. And you can just say, breathe in peace, peace, rest, relax. And if you're religious or spiritual, you could just say, with God, be still, down the triangle, rest, relax. You're kind of breathing in the good, releasing the cares. So if you start to, think about what it's, bothering you, try to get to it while you're having this triangular breath work, this mindfulness, so that you don't get re-triggered back into a whole feeling of anger or frustration and turmoil inside. You can kind of breathe through that negativity until it's gone. Just kind of be with your breath until it's just gone.
You've mentioned that before, breathing, and I'm glad you brought it up again, because that's another thing we minimize, thinking, what's a couple of breaths going to do? How's it going to make me feel better? I'm in such a bad situation right now. But no, that's been scientifically proven
Absolutely
to be basically a reset button that takes literally a few seconds. And
right.
like same thing with crying. We minimize that. I don't want to do that. I'm not, I don't want to feel pain and cry. But when you do, you get to the other side of it. It's like, I feel better. Or the next day, it's like, wow, I feel refreshed. I don't know what it is, because you let go of potentially toxins, negativity. It's all gone from your body.
Absolutely. It's like just self-care for your emotional, mental health.
Yeah.
And we deserve to do these things to care for ourselves. Correct. Yes.
How do we find you? If somebody's got questions, want to navigate some of this, I learn more and more from you all the time, and especially even on the medical side of things, the knowledge that you have, it's just amazing.
Worked with a lot of integrative physicians, the health-oriented physicians.
I'm seeing that now, Ann.
Yes, so thank you. Well, and you always add so much too. Thank you. I can be found, the easiest way I think is just to go to Psychology Today, directory for psychologists, look up Ann Creekmore. You see my picture, and then it's got my website. You can just click it, and it should take you in and take you right to my phone numbers and my email and my practice and everything. And I'm also going to be having a lot of my products, like some of my hypnosis CDs, my books, To Love Yourself, Love Your Life, other adjunct books, going to be on Talk Shop Live soon. So that people have a way to just go and get things as well. Very
fantastic.
Clear.
And mentioning the books, I just want to share, the books are under your pen name, which is A.P. Filosa. So
correct.
If you're looking that one book, Love Yourself, Love Your Life, it's all there. Everything you need is in there. Everything we talk about, everything we talk about goes back to the book. And I don't even try to do that, but that's how well put together, well thought out that particular book is, as with your other one too. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Appreciate it, as always, and we'll get together soon.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.